When in combat, give your players a heads up when they're next in initiative so that they can start thinking ahead. As we know, one of the common gripes we see in D&D 5e is that combat tends to be clunky and extrapolate over time, so it takes too long to do. One of the things that I find helps this is when you look through the initiative and you always give the next player to come up a heads up, like, hey, you're on deck, or hey, your turn's coming up next. Start thinking about it. And then as players, the idea is that you'll start thinking about what your action's going to be or what you'd like to do before you come up in initiative. This keeps things moving fluidly around the table and can shorten that time to combat that we usually try to streamline as much as we can every single game. So my second DM tip this week is to throw low-level enemies at your players occasionally. It's fun to just blow things up with your new powers without needing to have a long rest after every fight. Every now and then I'll throw packs of lower level combatants and enemies at my players so that they can really kind of flex and exercise that might. It's nice to just be able to carve through enemies as you gain power and grow as a character. And you don't always want to tax or need to tax your players to the nth degree through every single engagement. Sometimes it's nice to just throw something at them that'll let them feel powerful and really explore the threshold of the new powers and abilities that they're gaining. My third DM tip this week is when you're working around the table, set a mental timer or even a 5 to 10 minute timer on your phone to make sure that every PC gets some love. So if you're in the kind of situation where you're addressing characters individual, try to be mindful of how much time you're spending with each player to make sure that everybody has at least somewhat of a reasonable shake at being in the spotlight during that moment. So I like to kind of make my way around, and if I find that I'm not getting much interaction from a particular player, I'll actually create an opening for them and say, like, and what about you? What are you doing in this moment? Of course, Angela's heard me do that, and if you watch my stream, you'll actually see me do that in game too. So I like to make sure that everybody has some runway to participate and contribute in the game. And I do that by just like counting down mentally or just like keeping an eye on how long I've spent with each individual player. And I find it works well. So my first player tip this week is that the first step in setting up an ambush or stealth attack is declaring that you're trying to be stealthy. This is often overlooked. As a player, if you're trying to do something sneaky, the first thing you need to say to your DM is, I'm going to stealth, or I'm trying to be sneaky, or I want to do this undetected. Otherwise, we're likely going to assume that you are walking around in full visibility, so don't be surprised when an arrow comes flying at your head. But the first step in initiating stealth or ambush is declaring your intention to be stealthy. From there, the skill checks will determine the rest. Even if a spell doesn't benefit from being cast in a higher spell slot, you can still always use a higher level spell slot to cast a lower level spell. And oftentimes I found my players were forgetting this. They had first level spells that they weren't casting while they still had second level slots. So even if you have a first level spell that you want to cast and you're out of first level slots, you can still cast it in a second level spell, even if there's not an entry in that spell description that says it enjoys a different benefit for being cast at a higher level slot. If you have a second level spell slot left, then you can use it to cast your first level spells. Don't let anyone tell you differently.